Gary, moving to thing number three, we're going to jump back to Intel. They restructured, got a big government contract. We've been criticizing them for a few weeks, but it seems like they're fighting back. Gary, thing number three, Intel trading INTC fights back. Thing number three.
So, Rob, the last month or so, we've talked about Intel a lot, and it's been a little difficult, right? Because we've been very critical of the company, and with good reason. They've had reliability problems. Their foundries have fallen far behind what, Taiwan Semiconductor can do. Their ability to handle power loads, and not use too much power, which is crucial for mobile devices like laptops and cell phones. They've fallen behind Qualcomm on that. They've fallen behind Samsung on that. And so, it's a company that's had a really, really rough couple of years. And this year in particular has just been a disaster for Intel. And it's hard for me to criticize them because they're a company that I've admired. I've had Intel's i7 processors in every computer I've had for the last decade or more. It's what I have in my laptop now. They're also one of the few high-end US-based chip makers, and that's really important. Do we really want to be in a situation where, all of our computing chips are made overseas? And, if China's been very clear, they intend to invade Taiwan. Taiwan Semiconductor is the best chip maker in the world. Do we really want to depend on China for all of our chips, for anything data related, anything AI related? The military uses a ton of chips. So it's been really hard being critical of Intel over the last couple of months. Unfortunately, they've deserved it. Well, we've had a whole bunch of events in the last week. At the end of last week, Intel's management said they were going to do something to restructure. They didn't specifically say they were going to spin off the Foundry unit. That's the unit that manufactures chips versus the part where they design them. They're going to do something with that will allow it to potentially raise external capital independently, potentially to operate independently. I don't know if they're going to spin it off and have it trade as a separate company, but that wouldn't be a bad idea. Separately from that, the US government gave him a $3 billion purchase order. In fairness, I have regularly been against government involvement in the economy, but in this case, $3 billion is unfortunately not a ton of money for our government, but to keep our, key chip making capacity onshore, we might as well buy our chips from Intel rather than buying them from Taiwan. I'm not negative on Taiwan Semiconductor. Their products are amazing, but we do need to have domestic capacity. And then separately from all of that, it was announced, I think over the weekend, that Apollo is looking at making a $5 billion investment in Intel. I pretty much think the whole world, between management, the US government, and external private equity investors, have all said, okay, this is a disaster, but it's salvageable. And boy, do I hope they're right. I don't own Intel stock, but I just, I want nothing but the best for that particular company.
That was going to be my question, Gary, as a follow up. Does this make you take a second look at Intel from an investment standpoint?
I mean, I think at some point you have to. Um, I read some really interesting analysis. I have no idea if it's true, but somebody was saying that a foundry plant, that's a fab making a plant where they make semiconductors, where they make chips. Um, they think the value of those plants is $10 billion a piece, and there are 15 of them, meaning just the value of those assets is $150 billion. And at the time, the market cap of Intel was about $100 billion. And the conclusion was management has created negative $50 billion of value, and that's assigning no value to the brand name or the design business, which is itself very valuable. The thing about that is I have no idea what those fab plants are worth if you sell them to somebody else. I don't know, how that works if you spin it out. I also think, I want to see this company solve the reliability problems. In my opinion, it's a big deal that their 13th and 14th generation i7 and i9 processors had massive reliability problems. I think Intel management did a really poor job of addressing those. They've got customers calling them upset. And management's made the fix hard to find. They're not doing a whole lot in the terms of warranty replacements. I mean, I think it's worth watching. It's a fantastic company in a lot of ways, but it's really poorly managed. And I don't know what you do with the fact that, right now, if you want 3 nanometer processing, you really have to go to Taiwan Semiconductor. And Intel has basically said, okay, we're going to skip 3 nanometer and go to 18 angstrom processing or production rather, which is 1.8 nanometers. And so, my question is, if you can't produce at 3, if you can't produce at 3 nanometers, so you're telling us you're going to do it at 1.8. I mean, this has just been a long-term problem. I hope they get it fixed, but I don't know how to figure out, from where I am, whether that's going to happen or not. My guess is the people inside the company believe it'll happen, but I don't know. And it is worth pointing out that Intel has talked about being able to produce at 3 nanometers for years and years and years, and they haven't been able to do it. And unfortunately, the power consumption and reliability problems have gotten worse. We did tell you guys, I think it was a week or two ago, that the specs on Intel's Core Ultra 2 line look amazing. Let's see. It looks like their Core Ultra 1 line didn't have those same reliability problems. So if they've got that fixed, that'll be a big deal. That would make Intel a real competitor in a lot of the mobile market that shifted over to Qualcomm and, Apple's processors and just AMD, which is, they don't make their own AMD designs, but Taiwan Semiconductor manufactures for them. So long way of saying, I don't know.
Good answer. That's a perfectly fine answer.
Right.
And we will keep in tune with that and adjustments, new data, new information to maybe change our opinion.